First up is going to be, and I just want to say everything with a Mario accent, but first up is going to be the Jaeger-LeCoultre. Jaeger-LeCoultre adds the Polaris Geographic and 2 new Polaris colorways. I think the big question is really going to be, do we care, rather than is this a hit, a miss, or a maybe? I think they're beginning to get this watch right, but what do you guys think? I don't have my sign, so it'll be a thumbs up, middling, or thumbs down for me. 1, 2, 3, go. 2 maybes and 2 misses. Ripley, why do you agree with me that this is a maybe?
I like the collection as a whole. I think it could get a little bit more attention from the brand, so I like that they're doing things with it. The dial looks kind of a mess. There's just so much going on and just kind of anachronistically placed, and that whole thing around 6 to 9 o'clock. Yeah, there you go. Like that's better. So I'd really want to see these in person. Try them on the wrist. Check out the dial finishing. There's certain things I like in there. I like the concept, but yeah, there's also things I don't like. So yeah, I reserve my final opinion until I get to see him in the metal.
Good stuff, David.
It was on Instagram Velocifile. Is a critique of certain watchmaking executions and designs and whatever, and he really beautifully summarized this as though it's when a child is dressing in their parents' clothes. This is exactly that. I was looking at this watch and oh my god, how can this have that exact vibe? I cannot even begin to express how much this watch looks like that. And if on a more this is pretty serious, but on a more specific note, it's just bad on so many levels. It's shocking. How can this be a thing? How could this be more than a sketch on a napkin? I have no idea. Honestly, it's unbelievable.
Ariel.
Quite the indictment from David.
I was slightly concerned for David's mental health there. I was afraid. That's why I moved on.
I'm looking at the same thing. Look at it.
Look, these are not terrible watches by any means. They're not. The current generation Polaris to me is not pretty, and I associate Jaeger as a pretty watch brand, and they've made a lot of very pretty watches over the days, and I appreciate them for that. From a utilitarian standpoint, the Perpetual calendar and the 3-hand make the most sense. Look, the Geographic, it's aesthetically, it's a disaster. It's sort of one of those things of like, I bet this dial style can put up with any layout. And you have this asymmetric, complicated to figure out what the hell you're looking at thing. And I don't want to, because it's Jaeger at their best, they make these like weird tool watches, but like, here's in their mind, they're comparing it to the competition. They're like, but ours has the best features and best layout. And the problem is, as we sort of said, no one cares. Yes, this is technically speaking a very functional world time movement. It's got 2 times and 12-hour format. You got the AM, PM, even got the power reserve in there. And like, I appreciate it for all of that. But it's lost in the crowd. There's really no storytelling behind it. They've got to figure out how to make the style look a little bit more elegant. This is just not. we don't even have the right words. We're just like, wait a minute, there's something going on here. Like, you just can't do this. You just can't do this to us. So the Polaris in general hasn't been my favorite from an aesthetic standpoint. I just think it looks a bit on the basic side. And then when you sort of throw the asymmetry in there, it's just like, whoa. So like, if you handed me this watch, like, here, wear it, I wouldn't be like, how dare you? The good news is that Jaeger, and we detected this over the last year, the heartbeat is back. Okay, yes. They were full on in zombie mode. Okay, they were like, we don't know what's going on. Now there's a heartbeat. We don't know exactly when it'll fully wake up and start running around, but something's happening there, and I think that's that's very positive. So I want to be encouraging. Let's make the Polaris that really pretty sports watch. Let's look at Blancpain with the 50 fathoms, okay, which is like kind of in the same little bit price category. That's much older design, not nearly as fresh. But I bet like if you took a movement like that, put the 50 fathoms, people are like, oh, that's great, right? Because it's a much prettier looking thing. So I want them to get those hour numerals. Like they don't say over $10,000 watch. Those hands with the cutouts in there, this utterly unnecessary cutouts in there. Like it's a lot of it is kind of amateur hour. It's just trying to be modern for the sake of modern, and that's not what we really want the brand for. Because this is at heart kind of a retro watch.
Yeah, I think I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed.
I'm angry, and it doesn't even have a date. How can a travel watch not have a date? I mean, you're looking at this mess, and you forget that there's no date.
Because no one can ever agree what the date is associated with, which time zone. That's the problem.
Others have figured it out. I mean, literally every other GMT watch. Yeah, well.
I agree, but Jaeger, they couldn't figure it out.
Give it 2 date windows. Give it 2 date windows. You've put everything else on the dial at this point. Like, why not? Go.
That would be full Jaeger.
If you flanked the other side of the sub dial with a little circle there, and then you had another window adjacent to the power reserve indicator, you could add 2 dates and make it look cool and symmetrical. Boom.
What's through the square window? What's through the round window?
Just numbers flying everywhere.
I did give it a maybe because at least the Perpetual calendar came out the crazy. Has anyone ever done a crazy date?
Just numbers.
Frank Mueller, crazy hours. What about crazy date? The date just randomly appears somewhere.
Yes, crazy calendar.
But funnily enough, random numbers flying everywhere. This watch, for whatever reason, has 15 and 45 written next to 3 and 9. But nowhere else. Just in case. It's just so random.
Okay, David's not had enough sleep.
I'm losing it.
I was at least grateful that Perpetual calendar does keep to my particular definition, which you're going to have a Perpetual calendar do everything the same way, either all hand indicators or all windows. We'll let you off with the year. The only thing is, why are they still producing a Perpetual calendar that requires a pusher? IWC sorted this out years ago. Come on, Jaeger, at least make it.
They will not let them have it.
And that's more than one pusher. That's not a one pusher case. Okay?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Well, now that we have judged that, let's judge a version of the watch we were just referring to, and this is from IWC, the Portugieser. This is hands-on, re-engineered IWC Portugieser Perpetual Calendar 44. David, you got to handle this. Give us the lowdown.
I mean, it's not crazy new, but as you say, it does have the familiar IWC Perpetual functionality. You set everything through the crown. You cannot set it backwards, so you got to be careful with that. It's beautifully made, truly, genuinely. And I read this in the article, and I mean it. When you're looking at this watch, you are not thinking of any other watch, and I think that's kind of cool. It's just that sort of watch. You buy it, you wear it, and you're not like, oh, I wish I had a date, or I wish I had this or that. No, you look down on your wrist and you'll see this watch. It's all that you need, and probably a lot more than that.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's give it some judgment. So, on the count of 3, a hit, a miss, or a maybe. 1, 2, 3, go. 3 hits, but a maybe from Ariel. Ariel, tell us why it's only a maybe.
So I wrote a separate article on just the blue version of these that hasn't come out yet. David and I both enjoyed them. I think part of the maybe is I always ask myself, like, do I need a Perpetual calendar? This one has a lot of benefits to it, but it's thick. I mean, it's a very thick, big watch. They sort of redesigned the Portugieser case a little bit. It looks better. I still am not 100% convinced that IWC cares about legibility with the hands. The ice blue dial, another ice blue dial, or horizon blue, that's what they call it, horizon blue, is a little bit better. The black dialed one, I mean, in the right picture, it looks super legible, but David can easily say, like, half the time you can't see what anything says on the dial. So, plus these are all gold, right? And so I think that this with that blue dial and steel would be awesome. But this is, these are expensive things. So I again, if I was in the market for a large size perpetual calendar, this would be very, very high on the list. And if you are, big budget, big risk, this is the total way to go. I would just love to see this a little bit more legible in the dial. I think they could play with the finishing a little bit more. And again, I'm being picky because this is a $50,000 plus, gold luxury timepiece. Good in a lot of ways. With some tweaks, could be perfect.
Ripley, why was it a hit for you?
I like the Portugieser collection in general. I feel like it has its own identity, which is sort of hard given that it's not a very distinct looking watch, but yet it is. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have some crazy bezel or case shape or some gimmick that makes it distinct, but everything from the collection just kind of looks like it's part of the collection. And I think this is just a very pretty looking perpetual calendar. I like when IWC does dressy stuff because we so often think of them as like the pilot's watch or the Ingenieur. So I think it's just a pretty looking watch, a good evolution to the existing previous one.
Da Vinci forever.
Mario! Da Vinci.
And since I'm a Breitling guy, the case size doesn't bother me whatsoever.
Exactly.
It properly fits.
I was going to inquire as to whether this was now the new norm for you, Ripley. David, why was it?
Yeah, I quite like the black dial, precisely because the finishing and the legibility is really good on that, surprisingly. I agree with Ariel that it's not perfect on the bright blue dial. Usually black dials with shiny golden hands and hour markers and whatever are terribly illegible, but this one is beautifully legible. It's a really badass looking watch in red gold with a black dial, bang on. The rest of the other versions are nice, but that one is an absolute killer watch.
Good stuff. Well, I give it a hit. I mean, it's just a hit. It just is. It's just an awesome watch. The right size. Everything's organised properly. And I agree with David. I find the black one is actually quite legible. Quite expensive, but quite legible. But there you go. There's a cost for legibility, I guess. So that is us for the show this week. Gentlemen, what are you up to in the next week or so, Ripley?
Just trying to get some of these hands-on reviews sorted before I head over to New York for a few days for a friend's engagement party. But yeah, we're still in peak sample season, so next one in queue is a very tiny Casio.
Very tiny Casio. We're going to get a size comparison for Brightman?
Yeah, I think I've hidden the Casio under my Breitling, in fact. It's that small.
Good stuff. David, next week, ahead in watches, what is it?
I'm just about done explaining Lucent Steel for the 100th time because I want people to understand how amazing it is. And I had a Chopard Mille Miglia now in Lucent Steel, and it's fantastic. So I'm 2,000 words into it at this point.
Excellent. And have you reviewed the watch yet, or is this all just about the steel so far, the 2,000?
I managed to sneak a few words in there about the watch, yes.
Good stuff. Ariel, your favourite kind of steel?
Oh, wow. My favorite kind of steel. What does Rolex call theirs again?
Oyster steel. Omega has Omega steel.
Oh my God!
But Oyster steel was the first joke one because it's more or less the same as the others, but everyone else started using 904L steel, and Rolex got upset, so they just had to say Oyster steel just because they wanted to be different, and that's what makes it special. I call it Spite steel.
Spite steel.
That's my favorite kind of steel.
Great stuff. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Do check out Ariel's other podcast, Superlative. Ariel, do you know who's up next or what episode's out just now?
I know who I'm recording next. I actually don't remember, but the one this week is Adrian Taskin of Luxury Bazaar, who's quite a popular personality himself. So people are enjoying that episode. So please have a listen, and thank you for pointing it out.
Great stuff. Go and check all that out. If you need to contact the show about anything, email us podcast@ablogtowatch.com, and we'll see you all in a week or so's time. Goodbye.
Bye everyone.